We Hindus often say, "Andar ki sundarta adhik mahatvapurna." It is the inner beauty that matters. This is to imply that even if a person doesn't have an attractive exterior, they may still have a beautiful soul. But what if a car has chipped paint and dents on the outside and a motor that spews engine oil all over? We call it a bad car. Squad member, progressive Democrat and far left Representative Ilhan Omar is one such car. Ugly outside, ugly within.
Welcome to TFI Global, the antidote to mass delusion.
She's always in the news for same or similar reasons, and the reason is promoting camel herd caravan cult in the United States. This time was no different either. Let's go back to 2019 first, and let's revisit one of her most famous speeches. In 2019, US Congresswoman Ilhan Omar had made a statement concerning the influence of political allegiance in the United States. She had remarked, "I want to talk about the political influence in this country that says that it is okay for people to push for allegiance to a foreign country." This comment was a critique of American officials who were perceived to hold dual loyalties with the US and Israel. However, in time, this statement has come to be an inadvertent reflection on her own position. This incident is an example of Omar inadvertently critiquing herself, suggesting she too might be subject to the dual loyalty she herself warned against. So Ilhan Omar made statements prioritizing her Somali identity over her American nationality. Particularly alarming was her apparent support for the concept of Greater Somalia or Somali Wayne. This ideology, historically linked to violence and conflict in the Horn of Africa, has been a source of significant turmoil in the region. Omar's rhetoric, which was purely 24-carat ethno-racist, did not go unnoticed and led to widespread anger. This was compounded by her apparent lack of awareness regarding the cooperative efforts between the US and Somaliland in combating terrorism and piracy in strategic maritime regions like the Gulf of Aden and Gulf of Berbera. Here are some of her quotable quotes. In the speech, Omar said of herself, "The woman you sent to Congress is working day and night to protect your interests. She knows your plight and that of Somalia. I'm as concerned about Somalia as you guys are. Together, we will protect the interests of Somalia." Then Omar said, "We Somalis must have the confidence in ourselves that we call the shots in the US. The US government will only do what Somalians in the US tell them to do. They will do what we want and nothing else." Ilhan Omar, while speaking in Somali, faced criticism for her comments. When challenged, she claimed that the issue stemmed from misinterpretation of all things. Well, there are defenders of everything, and Omar had a defender too on Twitter or X, who argued that her focus on representing Somali interests in the United States is a legitimate part of her role as a congresswoman. Omar responded positively to this defense, criticizing her detractors as quote-unquote biased. The central issue, however, is not the representation of constituent interests, which is, of course, a universally accepted duty of any elected official. The controversy arises from the context and content of Omar's remark. In a speech in Minneapolis, she did not mention advocating for her local constituents' interests in the US. Furthermore, there was absolutely no reference to promoting US interests. Omar's statement, as recorded, was striking. "The US government must follow our orders, and that is how we will safeguard the interests of Somalia. Sleep in comfort, knowing I'm here to protect the interests of Somalia from inside the US system." This comment suggests a primary focus on Somali interests at the expense of those of the United States or even her local constituents. This sparked debate over the appropriate balance between a congressperson's national responsibilities and the representation of specific community interests, particularly when these might appear to be in conflict. Omar's speech, in which she asserted Somalia's right to territories currently part of Somaliland, Djibouti, Kenya, and Ethiopia, is rooted in the ideology of Greater Somalia or Somali Wayne. It is in effect advocating for the expansion of Somali territory, a perspective that has historically led to considerable conflict in the Horn of Africa. This position led Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene to sharply criticize Omar. Taylor Greene labeled Omar a terrorist sympathizer, accusing her of prioritizing Somalia's territorial ambitions while neglecting the issues at the US border. She emphasized the perceived threats to American security from illegal immigration, framing Omar's focus as a neglect of her congressional duties to the United States. Additionally, Omar's remarks drew criticism from Rhoda J. Elmi, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Republic of Somaliland. Elmi expressed concern over Omar's attempt to resurrect the contentious concept of Greater Somalia, noting its historical association with violence and instability in the region. Elmi highlighted the gravity of Omar's claims to territories that are integral parts of neighboring countries. Furthermore, Elmi condemned Omar's use of ethno-racist rhetoric. This criticism was underscored by the irony that Omar, who had previously thrown accusations on others of not being American enough, was now engaging in a similar form of exclusionary discourse. Omar is an old mascot of hatred. She had attempted to influence President Joe Biden's approach to Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who is widely loved in India and respected all across the world. Omar criticized Modi's visit to the US Capitol, citing a history of human rights abuses, anti-democratic actions, and discrimination against Muslims and religious minorities. She also accused him of censoring journalists. In her statement, Omar declared, "It is shameful that Modi has been given a platform at our nation's capital. I will be boycotting Modi's joint address to Congress." However, Omar did not provide empirical evidence or data to substantiate her claims against Modi. This lack of factual backing for her accusations was noted in the broader discourse surrounding her stance. Despite her objections, President Biden had to extend a warm welcome to Prime Minister Modi, who proceeded to address the US Congress. Ilhan Omar's approach was not limited only to Prime Minister Modi. In fact, it has been fairly consistent towards foreign leaders, as seen in her reaction to Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's Prime Minister. She had declared on Twitter in a lengthy and emphatic post a refusal to attend a joint session address by Netanyahu. Her decision was influenced by Israel's ban on Rashida Tlaib, another congresswoman, which prevented Tlaib from visiting her grandmother. Netanyahu is one solid, savage chap. Omar's tweet, characterized by its strong language and use of capital letters, reflected her stance against Israel. Ilhan Omar, along with other progressive Democrats, are famous for promoting misleading information, most recently regarding an incident involving a missile in the Israel-Palestine conflict. Following the misfire of a missile from the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which landed near a hospital, these Democrats, led by Ilhan Omar, echoed a narrative suggesting Israelis' involvement in the blast. This stance, aligning with Hamas's perspective, was scrutinized for spreading fake news about the complex and sensitive dynamics of the Israel-Palestine conflict. In 2022, Omar undertook a controversial visit to her terror-sponsoring cousins in Pakistan and even took a trip to Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, a trip sponsored by the Pakistani government, according to her annual House financial disclosure. During her visit, she met with former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan, and toured Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. This action drew strong criticism from the Indian government. The release of information about her visit and speeches has led to calls for her expulsion from the House, drawing parallels with the case of George Santos. However, there is skepticism about the likelihood of such an action, given perceived tendencies within the political left to defend its members. So it seems Ilhan Omar will survive this fall.